there is still a question that comes up, Somendra. I mean, I would invoke two line of thinking. One line of thinking comes from ancient scriptures, and if ancient scriptures have some kind of truth of its existence, and they belong to the writings of thousands of years back, and then within, let's say, in Indian ancient scripture, you have descriptions of kleshas and parikrama. Kleshas are avidya, asmita, raag, dvesha, and abhinivesha, which are largely jealousy, insecurities, anxieties, ego, half knowledge, sort of thing. And then you have parikrama, which is mudita, upekka, karuna, and maitri, which is friendliness and compassion and joy and discretion, vivek. Now, if these were written thousands of years back, it obviously, I would conjecture that it was written because they saw certain problems in the society, and they said we need to index our concepts around these and ensure that we are not getting saddled by the kleshas and are able to invoke parikrama. Now, I believe that was a commentary both for individual and team of that era. That era's team was completely different from today's. Maybe they did hunting and gathering as teamwork. Hunting required teamwork in some sense, sort of thing. And so that's one line of thinking. So I believe that the bug when people come together and they do certain things has been existing. This bug of not grasping things, and then subjectivity, and then blaming and shaming and insecurities taking center stage have been around for quite some time. So that's one line of thinking. The second line of thinking I would invoke is the Stanford scholar Francis Fukuyama. In his book Political Order and Political Decay, he interestingly mentions that for last 2000 years, when he studies Chinese history, they have been grappling with the problem of nepotism, favoritism, when they build bureaucracies or administrations to manage vast resources of vast amount of land and vast number of people or livestock. So now, if I invoke these two thinking, there is an inherent challenge I see in how to work together. Would you agree, disagree? Would you want to build on that?
Yeah, so the things that you mentioned, right, the philosophy, right, and the guidance that is emanating out of philosophy, the key objective was to shape the society, was to advance the society. So that's how those wisdoms they took hold, and then they got they recorded and disseminated. And if you compare our current situation, right, we are in our own reckoning, we have come a long way forward. We have separated agriculture, we have mechanized agriculture. Most likely, there is no insecurity of food insecurity, and people are not dying of famines and such and such. And if there is any particular corner of the world which develops famine-like situation, rest of the world, based on the knowledge, right, will come forward and at least prevent those people dying of hunger. So what has happened is that, as a human being, like collective society, we have we have overcome the basic insecurities that was present before. So based on that, what has happened is that we have focused on new thing, which is how to exploit inequality, which is basically how to become more or greater than you. So as a result, our philosophies and guidances in the society has changed. So I'll stop here.
There is this thing when humans come together, or even in the way Francis Fukuyama talked about in Political Order, or the ancient philosophy for a better life, or how to be living better. There are these inklings of there are fundamental challenges when humans come together. How does the triangle solve for it, or how do you view this? Is it even I mean, I would now put, is it even a question, or do you have a better question to respond to?
No, this is a good question to ask. So as we established, right, like often this triangle is administered very inefficiently with operation with carrots and sticks and such, not based on inspiration. And people who participate in the triangle, right, they fully understand that, the triangle is being administered inefficiently based on operation, based on fear, carrot and sticks and such, um, uh, and propaganda, misinformation. But many times, people still participate in the triangle. That's because, they think that they will have a fair shot at a self-determination if they participate in a triangle for 25 years or 15 years or something like that. So so like a fully informed person, like my daughter may enter the workforce, the politicized and inefficiently managed workforce, let's say at age of 28. And they may consciously decide that, I'll bear all those things for 22 years. 28 plus 22 is for 50, right? So that, so that I can retire at 50. But so why would people actively think about retiring at 50 or 45? And I'm not making this up, because if you go and search for these articles, you will find plenty. Retire at 40, retire at 45, retire at 50. Why would people think about this? That's because the simple reason the triangle is very inefficiently managed. It is managed with fear. It's managed with misinformation, propaganda. It's managed with hierarchy, powerful stakeholders, hippos, right? And it's just a reality of the industrialized world. So why it is the reality of the industrial world? Remember, we talked about earlier that initially the society invested in basically building a better society, and we got some good results out of that. We got scalable agriculture. We got scientific development, right? So we are still doing all those things, but one thing that is undeniable compared to the ancient times is that now we are heavily invested in inequality, not equality, inequality. So the allure of inequality, right, is quite a lot. And I'll give you an example. I'm a Bengali, right? So as I was growing up, right, I learned from my middle class, or maybe perhaps lower middle class background elders, that in Bengali, পড়াশোনা করে যে গাড়ি ঘোড়া চড়েছে. What it means is that whoever does learning gets gets to ride vehicles, which I do, by the way. Like, I have been driving a big SUV, a very very well known SUV, Toyota Land Cruiser, for since 2000 in Silicon Valley. I take pride in it. It's not environmentally sustainable. I am ashamed by it. But yes, I drove the SUV, a very nice SUV, Japanese made SUV, for since 2000. I still drive it. So it is literally true. পড়াশোনা করে যে গাড়ি ঘোড়া চড়েছে. Whoever does learning they gets to enjoy the fruits of the society. So I am a living example of that. But is it sustainable? Is it supportable? The answer is no. Because whenever we are doing this, right, whenever we are participating in this system, we are drawn by the allure of inequality. Inequality means doing much better, much better than others with whom I grew up with in my definitely lower middle class background from India, from a humble town in India, which is very much true. But since after all these years of experience and wisdom and time to think now, that if we have to come clean in a recorded video, right, which will be published and such as that, what can I say as a conscious human being? I think it's not sustainable. We as a world, we are growing. We are going from 6 billion to 7 billion to 8 billion, and there is demonstrative proof that we are invested in inequality. So once you accept this fact that we are actually drawn by the allure of inequality, we are invested in inequality, then everything will become explainable. The operation will become explainable. Propaganda will become explainable. Hype, fad, everything will become explainable, because people have limited time. as I said, 22 years. After long investment in education and consciousness, 28 years, you say when you enter the workforce, say, I'll retire at 50. So this is not something to be laughed at, So because it's come from deep wisdom that you have had 28 years of education and consciousness, and now you're entering the world as a professional, and say that I'll take this. I'm sorry to say, take this shit for 22 years, and then that's it. I'll retire at 50. Why would you say this? Isn't it work supposed to be beautiful? Is it not a work of God that we try to improve our environment? The reason it is not work of God or it is not a beautiful thing because we are invested in inequality. Had it been equality, then it would have been all been monks. We have Swami Vivekananda, dedicated his life for crores and crores of Indians, right? So, and he said so that I have been outside, and my heart pains that so many people in India they are basically in such a condition, and he did improve quite a lot by his philosophical guidance. But Hemant, if you are referring to these ancient times, you have to understand that what was the key indexing mechanism, like what was the key motivator. And those, we have to be very careful whether they carefully apply today or not. Because if we are admitting that we are fundamentally invested in inequality, then the things that you mentioned most likely is not applicable.
Three thoughts come up for me as you mentioned that, Suminda. One is my own relationship, my as in anybody's own relationship with work. How do we see work of any kind that we've been doing all? So each of us has got an inventory of experiences of doing several work in their life. Right from household chores to a neighborhood community work, or going out with friends and doing something that you don't like, or working on. We have an inventory of them. I believe that there is a case for consciously and continuously working on reimagining and revising one's relationship with any kind of work. And I'm not saying unethical work. I'm just saying work that comes across as difficult or challenging or problematic, right? How one sees one's relationship and evolves in that relationship with things outside and people or nature or work is something that is a lifelong pursuit. I believe that sometimes, because we are not self-discovering and we are not aware and we are not contemplating, and to some extent I can even say spiritually pathwayed, then it's easy for us to get lost in the difficulty or problematic or challenging. That is not to say that anything that is problematic should be justified. I'm not saying that. Yes, there are challenges in the society we need to solve for. We cannot say, okay, if it's there, then why don't you work on your own self and redefine your relationship with the problematic? That's not what I'm saying. So there is this intricate relationship with the outside, which may be problematic, challenging. And how do you view, what is your relationship with that, right? Do you work on your own self also as much as you work on the outside? Is a fundamental philosophical question. When I put that in context of any team, any kind of team working, I would imagine that in that team, there would be some kind of challenges. When we work with we have challenge with our own self as a human being, right? So obviously the challenge would also be outside. So how is our relationship with the difficult? How is our relationship with the problematic? That's one point that came up. The second thing that came up was you raised an interesting point of inequality, which is, the word inequality can be seen as requisite variety or diversity and experiments. So different people with different skill sets or different experiences. So there could be a case made for adaptive inequality and maladaptive inequality. I think what you're alluding to is a maladaptive form of inequality when it is going off the rails. So these are some of the thoughts. I don't know whether they make sense to you, but these are thoughts that are coming up for me. For me, you want to speak to any of that, or you disagree with any of that?
But no, yeah, it's all good. So this, this inequality, the drive for inequality, right? Like, why it accelerated is like, we started with the ancient times and we developed the society, and our core motivation was to develop a just society, and those kind of things, and we achieved quite a lot of things. Then what happened is that, we pivoted, and we invested in inequality, and and it's accelerating. Again, these are not made up. You can readily go and find support for what I'm saying. So what we are discussing here, that why that is so. So so the thing is that, we human beings, we are different from all other animals in the sense that we think, we desire, and all those things. On top of that, what's happening is that, our sensory stimulus is being constantly bombarded by things which are unreal. For example, if I see a hotel, like I saw this hotel where this YouTube influencer was invited from Ocean Gate, Ocean Gate submersible, which is having a lot of discussion chatter, in regards to unsafe product development and such and such. And I have done few posts on that. So when this influencer couple, YouTube influencer couple was invited, right? Obviously, OceanGate made sure that they had a very good hotel. And their videos, they start from arriving at Newfoundland, Canada, and checking in and then going to the hotel room. And they open the hotel room. Beautiful view of the mountains, two mountains, and the ocean passing through the mountains, and then going into open ocean. So beautiful view. First of all, so see, now I am sitting in California. You are sitting in India, right? And you get to see this influencing YouTube video because of the news circulation. So that's still good. But then, you start to get the desire that why can't I go to that hotel and experience that beauty of Newfoundland, Canada, oceans, and then the bay is going inside the oceans and such and such. Similarly, there can be other imaginaries, Phuket Island in Thailand, and this and that. So what's happening is that we get invested in inequality based on sensory stimulus, which is accelerating. YouTube videos, like very easily accessible YouTube videos, a cell phone, a smartphone, which lasts for 5, 6 years with good functionality and such and such. So because of that, we, instead of locally focusing, local autonomy focusing, we are becoming globally unhappy, globally desired, and that tendency, right, that drive as as an animal, not as a human, right, basically calls us. It's a clarion call for us to invest in greed, for us to invest in inequality, for us to perform for narrow interest. So again, you'll find, thread of what I say going to the first video, right? So it's depending on that, and that basically makes us unhappy. For example, if you consider a small Scrum team or Agile team, 7 people or 8 people, you will start to get unhappy when you see that the team members, they are actually not invested on the team. They're invested in the work and work team. Teamwork comes last. So first, they're invested in work. Work means just work, is abstract entity. How can I do better? How can I write better Java code? Then work team, how can I get my pull request properly passed and conform to the convention of the team? Work team, whenever you talk about convention, pull request convention, code review style, these are work team. These are not work concept. These are work team concept. And then comes the teamwork. Like, do I have empathy for other team member to pass their pull request as soon as possible? Not giving all the comments in the pull request, having a chat saying that, hey, I don't want to give 37 comments in the pull request. I'm only giving, 7 most But the other 30, I'm just letting you know that please do not repeat that. That basically investing on the image of another team member, like uplifting of the image. So we feel unhappy or as human beings because fundamentally we are connected entities. But because of this overbearing, overarching philosophies, material philosophies, what happens is that we become very invested in work, which is an expression of humanity, and investing our engagement with the work and ignoring the ecosystem, and that very indirectly causes unhappiness because whenever you think about happiness, right, you will see that you basically excelled as a connected human being. So we want to discount that in this era of individualism and materialism and sensory overload, because we think that our smartphone is going to make us happy. Not really. It can only give you the picture, a very good vivid picture, 4K video of Phuket Island, but that is no replacement of actually going there. And if you want to go there, obviously it will cause resource expenditure. So if you become very global oriented and you want to be a global traveler, a global experiencer, still you may find yourself to be unhappy, because if you did not develop adequate connection. That's why influencers, you'll see they're very, very emotional, and they want to bring out the emotion into their YouTube video. And that they do because either they want to preserve themselves as individuals because they work, and they want to bring the emotion in their work, and in that way they may feel connected and happy, because otherwise it just becomes a constant 24/7 marketing. Other thing is that maybe they want to transfer that connection feeling through their influencing video, but still there is no substitute for experience. That's why theoretically speaking, teamwork is so important, but who cares? Like in this investment in inequality and more salary, more bonus, like teamwork may come last. So that's because, as I said, when I entered the workforce, I was 28 years old, and I said I'll invest 22 years, I'll retire at 50. Maybe it says I'll go through this pain and torture with my fortitude. That's why oftentimes people invest deeply in their family, because they know that they have to go through this, and their family will hydrate them to through this problem. But if you say this, then it's a big admission on the failure of humanity, that the work as a philosophy is failing.
Great. Tying it back to the triangle, Subinda, are you, and picking up from the last statement that you mentioned, when you say that work as a philosophy is failing, are you also then staking one of the first principles of work itself to be having ingredients of not just pain or suffering, but also, let's say, evolution of a person, evolution of society? Would you go there and say something there, or would you stop short of saying something like that?
So this statement, right, the philosophy of work is failing, even though it appears very objectionable and very controversial and nerve-wracking upfront. But if you do deeper investment in this, you will see that it has some element of truth. And this is very difficult to repair this damaging statement until or unless you go at the core of the philosophy. Like, why do you do work? The reason we do want to work, because we are social beings, and we create organizations and we connect as organization. And then what happens is that beyond the surface level constructs, everything else melts away, because we deeply invest in inequality. So that is the chasm. So if we do not want to repair the chasm or narrow the chasm, then we cannot repair this damaging statement that philosophy of work is failing. And what has happened is that the mechanization and the amplification of our abilities, being able to see wonderful videos of Phuket Island, or let's say that you had a dream to be a pilot, but you never could be a pilot. But there are YouTube videos, the cameras are fixed in the pilot's cabin, and they basically show how the plane is landing in San Francisco and such, what do they do, and all those things. So So it is possible in this accelerating and mechanized world to satisfy a lot of your desires and a desire to know. But we still need to understand at the basic level, irrespective of all these stimuluses, right? In an ever accelerating, ever changing world, we need to be sufficiently locally connected, either with the family or beyond family, and have a purpose of a passing human being, because everybody understands, including billionaire CEOs, that their time in this art is very limited. At most 100 active years, that too is stretching it, because we mostly gain conscious adult at 28, 30, something like that. So then you can be active for 70 years. That is quite a lot if you think about it, right? But still, if you think deeper, like your impact can be very, very minuscule. And then if you don't have a philosophical basis of your existence, right, it can make you unhappy or anxious at a subconscious level. Especially when some of the things come out, somebody disrespects you, or say that the way billionaires think that they can think of anything, they can get things very quickly, they can be consistent sometimes, inconsistent sometimes. But like when they start getting public ridicule, for example, Bill Gates had a lot of respect, but nowadays not so much, right? Because certain inconsistencies in his personal life and things, and those things are coming out, right? So that is the biggest story, right? As a human being, you invest in so much of inequality, you amass so much of wealth, and then you start getting disrespect as a public persona, or not get so much of respect or attention. So then I'm pretty sure that you die with that insecurity. So that is why we need to, as a conscious human being, we need to understand, like, what is that we are doing. If we say that I'm starting at 28, I'll take this again, sorry to use the word shit, for 22 years, and I'll retire 50. Fine, it is fine. Just please don't get unhappy, because that was your conscious choice. But understand that the modern world is deeply invested in inequality, which is very difficult statement to refute.
Right. Suminda, I have more threads that we need to cover, and I believe we need to circle back and have another round of shot at this. But for now, I think this is good. We can publish this ASAP, and then come back and have more conversations around the topics. So there are still some open threads in what we discussed. So maybe we'll do a part 2 of this. You're okay with that, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So again, it is going towards a framework of management. So management is not really any special role. It's just that how to bring cohesion, how to bring synergy, how to bring other quality attributes in a group of human. But what has happened instead is that management has mostly reduced to doing those things for a very few select group of humans, specifically the shareholders, stakeholders, management themselves, executives, and such and such. So that is why management has become laughable, and philosophy of work is failing. People may not, when powerful manager may speak, because they know that manager is powerful. But ask them privately, they'll snicker, or say this person doesn't read any books, he just reads summaries and just just talks this, that. And I am talking from my experience. So what I'm trying to say is that when I inquire privately, I see managers, they are nothing. They are absolutely untrustworthy, like not at all credible.
Inspiring
People
or
have inspiring, or people have no projection in people's mind. But people go and listen to them in all hands and big meetings and all those things. And you ask them, have a survey after all hands, excellent, thumbs up and all those things. But you
yeah.
you ask them,
Yeah, totally with you,
you kind of,
Somita. I mean, we all have incredible number of experiences around these.
Yeah. So, so yeah. So I have no doubt that the philosophy work is failing. It is it is limping along. But like you take stock of the efficiency. I think it is at 10%. Basically, what I'm trying to say there is like iceberg. 10% is visible. You are measuring it. Yeah, like metrics and all those things, developer productivity and all those things. But it is all very meaningless. Like the specifically developer productivity is dangerous. Like without proving all this cognitive connective pathway and all those things. Basically, let's forget our jargons. Samantha, a very simple question: why do you think a developer or group of developer will be inspired from one sprint to another sprint? I have not found answer to this question. And if there is no good answer to the question, then please tell me, why do you think they will not bored or depressed or anything like that? What makes one sprint or one quarter different from other quarter? Like what is the proof of strong cognitive connection to the people, through the people that through whom you are getting the work done? And I have experienced people just do it. People just do it. They are depressed. They come to work. They hide it because they know that they need to earn. And this thing, right? So that's why, and people don't see any investment in their development of human being or working human being. For example, like whatever they see token. That's because if you look at a very famous a critic of work, Guy Ernest Debord, uh, Guy Debord, Debord. Like he basically says long time back that our society has become a society of spectacle. Everything is just a play, right? So so but the thing is that a play has a tax. If you are basically going to work to play act, you cannot deny that at a subconscious level you are getting stressed out. And basically if you continue do this for a long time, then it will have an impact on your human being. And please remember that in our current world, accelerating world, there is very less time to unwind. So now think, right? You're constantly acting, maybe like 5 6 days a week, Monday to Friday, and then part of Saturday. So you have only one day to unwind on Sunday, but then there are domestic troubles or societal troubles. So then it looks like you are never unwinding. So until unless you take voluntary or involuntary unemployment, time to think, right? So no wonder people are evolving the way you see people are evolving. Very backward, not invested in relationship, this and that, because the fundamentally invested world in inequality is expecting everybody to depart their core human being. So until unless you take active architecture to correct that through your local connection, through your investment in family and such, then just indexing on this failing philosophy, which is called work or management, is no salvation. It is basically almost path to self-destruction. Again, it's a very objectionable statement to give on recorded video, but I'm willing to give it.
Yeah. And what I wish to do, Suminda, is today we tried and established in our conversation, we tried and established the background for the triangle. Maybe in the next video, the next time when we record, we can take actual case study and go step by step as to maybe a case study of your life without naming names. That these are the steps followed, but if this was done, then the outcomes would have been different. Or maybe another way of taking a shot at it, probably.
Yeah, sure. So one thing is that I can tell people, and which may be almost impossible statement. If you take time to think for yourself, if you take time to think from first principle, if you take time to read philosophers, so not because of reading, but because you want to know. So if you take time to understand and read about ancient cultures, right? So if you basically are on a mm, on a on a firm ground for thinking, I cannot guarantee you that you'll be happy, but you will not be insecure. But well, what is happening is that people are both unhappy and insecure. Unhappy, as I told you,
Such a beautiful point.
because fundamentally you are investing in inequality. So that causes unhappy, because inequality means what you can do more compared to going with a group of humans. So that's their individualism and such and such. But the other thing is that insecure because you cannot understand the world. So that is a dangerous combination, both unhappiness and insecurity. Now, what happens is that if you invest time in thinking first principles and understanding the ecosystem and such, you may be wiser. You may be in a more firmer ground in terms of knowledge or in terms of wisdom, in terms of your receptiveness in understanding the complexity complex society, right? You keep on referring to that. So that may what may call it may calm you down because you are not that insecure ground. Again, it is separate from happiness and all that's different, and then it may guide you properly to go towards happiness. But first, you need to take care of your insecurity, which you cannot in this fast-moving world, because people who are deeply invested in inequality will expect you to become an automaton. Means basically a narrow thinking automaton, so that this is our company's philosophy, this is what I like to invest. For example, Google, right? Google is asking their employees, since they pay so well, invest 4 to 7 hours per week or maybe more on testing Google Bard. This itself is very objectionable. Why do you think you will get proper input from your employee base, given all this theory? The management just wants to do that just to keep up a face and say that our employees are invested. Really? Are you sure? That without your this diktat that invest in this, like did employees offer themselves? Did you see this synergy come up automatically that we should invest in testing Google? But no, you are under existential threat. You have to give all these statements that our employees are testing the Google Bard on their own time during office and off the office. So again, I have no doubt in my mind that philosophy of work is failing. Philosophy of management, which is a subset of philosophy of work, is also failing massively, and we should have more discussions about it.
So maybe
This itself is one such example. We are discussing that.
so in the next episode, we'll try and get to some of the first principles as you see on philosophy of work, for philosophy of management, and then we'll try and see how those first principles can be upheld with the triangle approach that you have. So maybe that could be the content of our next dialogue.
Yeah, so basically, like it is possible in a sufficiently small context. Like, if you have a smallest kind of companies, right? And then you have the leadership who is invested in these principles and then wants to succeed as a group of humans in that small entity. It is possible, but it is these investments are not capitalistic. The capitalistic principles are very simple. It is actually Piketty, this thing, right? Its rate of return needs to chase rate of growth. See, this itself is the inequality principle. What Piketty is saying that the core equation of capitalism is that the rate of return are greater than, much greater than the rate of growth. So what it is saying that, like, in the human society, there is something called rate of growth. Agriculture, automated agriculture, everybody gets good food, lab grown meat. If people want to have that lab grown chicken, such and such. So these are like, the growth of the society, protein, food, good video, the growth of the society. So now in the capitalist, what is it? No. Let that be growth of the society. Our return has to be much greater than the rest of the growth of the society. So as you can see, it's a deep investment in inequality.
Correct.
If we admit that, if we start from that, and then if we try to consistently explain, then maybe we can have a meaningful discussion. But then you have to say that either you are investing in teamwork or work team. You have to be clear.
Correct. On that note, Sumendra, I think we can promise ourselves that we'll come back and have this dialogue with each other. and continue. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think you will edit that, some part of this. I don't want to see myself laughing uncontrollably. Uncontrollably.